Dear students, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Dr. Upasna Diwan and I work at Rukmini Devi Institute of Advanced Studies. I've been associated with this institute for the past 15 years and I'm currently working as an associate professor. My area of specialization is finance, which is why I've chosen this topic for discussion today, which is digital currency, a futuristic approach. A much relevant topic, a much desired topic, a topic that is a need of the hour. So let's get started. Every story must have a background, and hence, this is my background to you for this session today. It was in February 2022, if you remember, India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharamanji had announced that a digital rupee or an e-rupee would be introduced by the end of the year 2022 or 2023, and this would be backed by the Reserve Bank of India. A bit before that, which was in July 2021, the Reserve Bank of India had announced that it was working towards a phased implementation of the digital rupee. A little before that, it was Shri T. Ravi Shankar, who is a deputy governor of the RBI, and he mentioned that CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, are likely to be the arsenal of every central bank going forward. And which is why this all of a sudden it puts everything into perspective, the need of digitalization of the Indian rupee. If I go a bit earlier than that, if you might remember, the demonetization happened in the year 2016, and this led to a hundredfold, or in fact, a thousandfold increase in the number of digital transactions. Coupled with increase in the availability of low cost smartphones and low cost 4G data, and of course the 5G data which we're talking about, this further deepened the digitalization era in India. And of course, this was vastly successful because of UPI's Unified Payments Interface, which started back in 2016, which made the entire process extremely beneficial, we experimented a lot with the UPI system. There were many hitches in between, but eventually it took off. And now look at how we deal with UPIs. We're able to make online transactions, online transfers, we are able to do IMPS, we are able to make NEFT transfers, and of course, we already use some digital payment tools like Paytm, etc., for making all the payments. And of course, not to forget the PMJY, Prime Minister Jan Dhan Yojana, and of which the digital currency and digital accounts was the backbone, increasing increasing the significance and the visibility of India in the areas of inclusivity of finance, financial freedom, accessibility, and financial security for all. With this background, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear students, I start with a discussion on digital currency. So, going forward, taking my discussion, Aristotle started explaining the concept of digital currency, and he mentioned around 350 BC that no matter what medium of currency you use, it should have the following characteristics, which means it should be durable, transferable, divisible, scarce, recognizable, and fungible. So I'll make it look better for you. So here we go. Yes. So any sort of unit should be durable, which means it should be stable, which means it does not rust, does not rot, does not melt, does not change shape. So slowly we are moving towards any a medium of exchange that is durable. It should be scarce. We cannot have unlimited money. So similarly, digital payments can also be limited. They need not be limited unlimited, which means the RBI will come out with certain regulations as far as digital currency, the use of digital currency is concerned. It should be transferable, which means it transfers the ownership of a product from one person to the other. Money, or any unit of money for that matter, should be recognizable. Recognizable by whom? Recognizable by a central authority, and in our case, the Reserve Bank of India. It should be divisible, which means that we should be able to divide it into smaller portions. For example, a 20 rupee coin or a 10 rupee coin or a 200 rupee note, the denominations are endless. And of course, it should be fungible. Fungible means that it should be easily substituted, which means if I am giving you a 20 rupee note, I can also give you two 10 rupee notes in place of that. So fungible can have different connotations. For example, fungible could also mean suitable, it could also mean changeable, it could also mean swappable, I could go on and on. It means replaceable, reciprocal, exchangeable, substitutable, convertible, and transferable. So these are some properties of sound money. Going ahead, money has also evolutionized over the past so many years. So if we see here, earlier we had the barter system, and then it was the gold standard, and we all remember the Bretton Woods system, on the basis of which the gold standard was there. And then of course we also experimented with metal coins. Then we came on to paper money, and then we came on to plastic cards, which we all of us use, and then we came on to electronic money, and of course cryptocurrency. These are the days of cryptocurrency. And you know what? Cryptocurrency itself says that don't ever feel bad. Even I don't understand me. So we are in a phase. At one point in time, we did not understand where the gold standard was going. So slowly, slowly, our economy has matured, our systems have matured, but still we do not know what exactly holds for cryptocurrency. For example, Nirmala Sitaramanji mentioned that there would be a tax of 30% and then an additional tax of 1% on any kind of transactions which is in cryptocurrency or altcoins or stable coins or Dogecoin, etc. um, Ethereum. That, there are so many terms that we use these days as far as crypto is concerned. So we really don't know where we are going. We're still in the process. We're still in the journey of experimentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, the earlier forms of currency were, like I mentioned, barter systems. So, I can say that we started from Mesopotamia. And of course, there was Marco Polo, who was very famous for the use of cowrie shells. So, he brought in the concept of shells being exchanged as money. If that wasn't all, we started using tobacco as a currency. Imagine. Tobacco as a currency. And then that was not enough. And suddenly we are in the era of nonces and hashes. Nonces and hashes are terms that are used at the time of mining of cryptocurrency. So you have seen, dear students, ladies and gentlemen, that we've moved not just from barter system to the Bretton Woods system. We were using gold as money. Then we started using paper money. We started using cards as money. And now we are in an age when we are talking about cryptocurrency, and we are slowly and steadily moving towards digitalization of the rupee. Now, functions of money, like I said, should have the following. Should have the following characteristics, which means they should serve as a medium of exchange, a unit of account, a store of value. Money should have intrinsic value. It should not be backed by gold or silver. So, which means if I have a 200 rupee note which I transfer to you, so which means that on the face of it, I have transferred to you 200 rupees because it is backed by a sovereign state, and in our case, the government of India or the RBI. So, which means if I am giving you a 200 rupee note, I have transferred to you value of 200 rupees, anything that is having intrinsic value, inherent value. I don't have to give you gold, I don't have to give you silver, I don't have to give you some wheat that is equivalent to this 200 rupees. This paper is good enough. In this case, we say that this is called fiat currency, which means a currency which has been given authority by the government of India. So if I ask you, for example, when we make Paytm transactions to each other, is that digitalization of currency? It is digitalization of payments, because when we make a Paytm, it ensures that we are moving towards a cashless economy. There are no charges when you're doing an Paytm. So it promotes the concept of inclusivity. So if I'm doing a Paytm of 200 rupees to you, I'm transferring to the value of 200 to you. But for example, I want to do Paytm to someone who is sitting in USA. I'm sure it can be done, but it's a far more complicated process. And I would shy away from taking that process. So what do I do then? So if I had digitalization, if my currency was digitalized, I could just do it at no cost at all. I could just transfer $200 or $300 without any charges that are levied to me by the bank. So what we're saying is, it's not as if digitalization is not happening. Paytm is happening, a lot of other things are also happening, but these are, these any kind of transaction that we are doing, we want to be done at a larger scale. We want that it should be backed by the Indian government, and in this case, the Reserve Bank of India, and hence the need to get a fact straight. So when we're talking about central bank digital currency, please give me a second, I'll just choose my pen. Yes. So when we're talking about central bank digital currency, it is a virtual form of a fiat currency. Fiat currency is something that I just told you that has the recognition of the Reserve Bank of India. And of course, a CBDC, that is a central bank digital currency, is an electronic record of digital token of a country's official currency. So the Reserve Bank of India or other banks would offer tokens to people that can be used for the purpose of an for the purpose of transaction that is completely digitalized. And this would be backed by the nation's monetary authority, that is the central bank, which is the RBI. And because it is backed by the RBI, I would have full faith and full credit in this entire transaction, and hence the need for CBDC. Now, when we are talking about central bank digital currency, please keep in mind that whenever we are talking about paper currency, it also has a lot of seigniorage involved, which means there are a lot of costs. What kind of costs? There would be cost of printing, cost of transporting, cost of storing paper currency. But if all of it is digitalized, there is no cost, right? So it makes it very efficient. It makes it extremely I can say that it increased the ability, the central bank's ability for transfer of funds from one person to another without the liabilities being increased. Now, a lot of people say that what is the difference between digital currency and cryptocurrency? So, ladies and gentlemen, cryptocurrency is something that is not legalized, recognized, authenticated, given the endorsement of the Reserve Bank of India. So even if it's a digital payment, the Reserve Bank of India and Nirmala Sitaramanji do not recognize it. So which means it is something that does not have sovereign guarantee. It is something that is volatile, because if we're talking about the Indian rupee, and the Indian rupee as pegged to a dollar becomes very volatile. So the Indian government steps in to stabilize the currency, and we say that it is a managed economy, or it is a managed float, right? It's not a free float. So which is why when we're talking about cryptocurrency, it's not managed by the government of India, right? So it is highly volatile. There is no r- there's not much of security involved, which means the risk is high. And in other words, it would have a lot of cyber security threats. It would have a lot of malware threats, right? We don't know who's doing what, which leads to money laundering. And this gives the rise for regulatory need. And of course, not to forget that when we are talking about mining of cryptocurrency, there's a lot of electricity involved, because you know what, when we mine cryptocurrencies, we need huge servers, we need graphic cards, and there's a lot of electricity and algorithms and mathematical equations that are involved in the mining process. It's extremely complicated. I've tried nonces and hashes. It takes a lot of time, and it's also not easy. So which means that if we are talking about mining of cryptocurrency, it's again not very eco-friendly. And hence, the challenges with CBDC, like I mentioned to you, is that for anything to gain momentum, for anything to be recognized, CBDC, which is central bank digital currency, would have to be recognized. Now, ladies and gentlemen, recognized by whom? It would really have to be recognized by the RBI, and of course, the amendments will have to be required to make to the Coinage Act. Coinage Act deals with how many coins need to be printed, and then all of a sudden, if no coins need to be printed, then we need to take major amendments in that area. It has to be recognized by FEMA, that is Foreign Exchange Management Act. How do we bring in homogeneity and full-fledged balance between CBDC and FEMA? And of course, not to mention that the backbone of this is information technology, because everything is managed by information technology. So which means that all these three aspects would might could might it might just pose a challenge for CBTIC. So for CBDSC, so if the next discussion is that where we are, so I'll tell you, where does India stand in the digital currency market? So here are the key findings. I looked up a couple of research papers, and this is what I found. 87 countries representing over 90% of the global GDP are in fact still in the area of exploring a CBDC. Some countries have fully launched. For example, Nigeria is a country that is extremely successful in launching the e-naira. there are other countries which are experimenting, partnering with each others, and those countries are testing. For example, there's a project called Dunbar. It's a partnership between South Africa, Singapore, Malaysia, and Australia, where they're seeing that can are we able to make digital currency transactions which are valid, recognizable, and are we able to synthesize the process? And of course, one of the countries with the four largest central banks, that is US, Japan, etc., are still experimenting with the idea. The countries which are in the phase of launching are China and South Korea. As far as India is concerned, we are still in the development stage. So, as you can see in the graph here, this neon colored development stage is where India is in, and a large number of countries are still in the research phase. And this source is the Atlantic Council. So, dear students, if you would want to if you want to read some more, please go to the website of Atlantic Council. They have a beautiful graphical representation of how this digitalization is going forward. And there's this lovely caricature I found out, so I thought I'll discuss this with you. So this is gentleman Bitcoin, and he says, "Hey, give me all your cash." So this other gentleman says, "Sorry, I use only Bitcoin." And so Bitcoin says that in that case, you need more money than me. So which means we are still in a tussle. We are still fighting between a cashless economy and something that is backed by digital currency versus cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, altcoins, stable coins, etc. A lot of students generally get confused between cryptocurrency. So, cryptocurrency is a term that is used for digital payments which are not backed by the government of India. Anything that is not a crypto is an alt, which means it's a altcoin. It's an alternative currency, and hence the term Bitcoin and altcoin. So the top five global cryptos are Bitcoin, Binance Coin, Cardano, Ethereum, and Tether. And of course, they are the worlds of Dogecoin, etc. So every day you get up and you see that there is something happening in the area of cryptocurrencies and digitalization of payments. And of course, a lot of regular questions are generally asked as to what is mining of cryptocurrency. So, like I just mentioned some time back, that for mining of cryptocurrencies, because crypto works on distributed ledger system, and when you talk about distributed ledger system, all transactions go through a blockchain. So, if I have to just go a bit further and explain the concept of blockchain to you, this entire furore around cryptocurrency started with a person called Satoshi Nakamoto who was the author of the paper, the Bitcoin white paper in the year 2008. Everybody is confused as to who is this Satoshi Nakamoto, and we're still wondering if it is Elon Musk. We don't know, but Elon Musk once mentioned that probably the name, Satoshi Nakamoto has been taken from Sa of Samsung, Toshi of Toshiba, Naka from Nakamichi, and Moto from Motorola. How would he know all that? So we are saying that probably it was none other than Elon Musk who has launched who has launched the Bitcoin probably. Now, going ahead, when we're talking about blockchain, like I was saying, so any kind of currency that is not legitimate by the government or the government of that particular currency means that it is a cryptocurrency which works on a blockchain. Blockchain has its backbone in distributed ledger system. It is a decentralized ledger system. Now I'll just give you a small preview of what a blockchain looks like. So every blockchain has a magic number and every blockchain has a size. So if you want to mine cryptocurrencies, you will have to come up with some um, mathematical equations. You will have to have a good stable internet connection, and of course you will need to have good graphic cards so that you're able to decide the nonces and hashes. These are terms we use when we are mining bitcoins with the help of blockchain. Now every transaction has a certain block that it leads behind, and ultimately so hash of one block leads to the hash of the next block. So that's how it works. Every transaction has a sequence, and we get to know that a particular bitcoin has been mined. So which is why we say that blockchain is the essential to cryptocurrency. I just told you about mining and the need for electricity, ladies and gentlemen. So, class, what are the implications of a digital currency or a cryptocurrency? See, if you're talking about Implications for the banked means financial institutions which are already existing. So if I have a digital currency, or for that matter a cryptocurrency which eventually is recognized by the government of India, what will happen for the bank? So for the bank, what will happen is that there are no middlemen to charge transaction tolls. Like I said, when I do a particular transaction in IMPS or in NEFT, but the bank is charging me a certain deduction, right? So if it is digital currency, none of these will be charged. So there'll be no middlemen, and it will be very easy for me to get my cash across the borders. It will make it faster, quicker, efficient. And of course, the banks might exploit us by charging some withdrawal fees, charging fees, transaction fees, overdraft fees, membership fees, card fees, this fees, that fees, etc. And lost card fees, etc. But when you're talking about digitalization, none fee would be charged, and it makes extremely relevant, efficient, and pertinent. It's like a distribution highway. It's like a digital highway. So that's the implication for the bank. Now, implication for the unbanked, it could change your life. Imagine there's so many people out there in India who don't have a bank account, and but they have access to phones. So, for example, they have access to phones. So all of a sudden, this oppressive regime can be over, where you're manipulated by the banks, etc. You have to take in care taxation, inflation. It is only a true global currency, free from any entity's influence, and of course, without complex banking transactions, bureaucracies involved, etc. Digital economy and cryptocurrencies can give the unbanked a chance to securely save and transfer money, access credit, and even make international transfers. Implications on e-commerce. So I will say that users will be able to verify the validity of a transaction on their own without being served of fully or their banks. So again, everything comes to the bank. So when you're going through digitalization, you are suddenly coming out of the charges that are charged by the bank for any kind of activity that you're using. At the same time, keeping your identity extremely bound within the limits of the central banking system. So e-commerce would tend to become more convenient, and it would help us monitor our own activity ourselves. Implications for anarchists. Now, when I say anarchists, I mean to say that, whenever we're talking about digital currency, we say that it is authorized by the central bank, right? So we are moving towards an era where it could be a possibility that we're moving beyond digital currency to cryptocurrency, where no one is ruling the netizens. It's just the people on the computers who know that who is going where, which transaction is good. Some people might call it money laundering, some people like me might call it smart shopping. So it could happen. You have to keep your mind open for any for any concept to settle down, for for any new idea to mature. There are lots of debates and discussions like the one we are having today. So we must not close our minds to digitalization and to, of course, cryptocurrency. We must keep ourselves open. This is the time for disruption. The constitutions of world, the constitutions of the budding economies, the constitution of the governments are, every now and then we hear discussions on cryptocurrency and validity of the same. So anarchy may feel like take its proper throne as a political system of the choice. So this is just a snippet that I thought that anything that isn't a Bitcoin is an altcoin, because this is generally a doubt which students have. What's an altcoin? Anything that is not a Bitcoin is an altcoin, right? So some observations. Now, when I think about internet banking, or for example, when I talk about digitalization, if I visualize what a digitalization of transactions would be like, so these are my observations. That web users have some common traits, and those common traits are that they are impatient. So, which means that if I'm not able to make a transaction quickly, I might get impatient. I might switch over to the regular form of currency, which is paper currency. So I'm stingy as well. So which means whenever I'm making an online transaction, instead of 2,000 rupees, I tend to make a purchase of 1000 rupees, because still I don't have the trust on the digitalization on the I'm still scared that someone might take away my bank account number, someone might take off my credit card number, etc. There are cases we have heard that people have taken loans on their names without even knowing them, which in turn impacts your credit score on CIBIL. So, which is why CIBIL also says that please keep a check of your credit score, because you may never might know that who is using your bank account for taking a loan. Alas, so these are the challenges, and hence it helps us being stingy, if it helps us at all. We are afraid. We keep on clearing our cookies whenever we're making a digital transaction. If it's not your own laptop, we keep clearing a browsing history if you're making a digital transaction on a server which you might not be sure of. So if we can come up with something, if we can come up with some innovative technology in this area which keeps into mind these aspects and makes my transaction faster, cheaper, and more private and secure, I am sure that all ships will rise. There'll be more developers joining in, the velocity of transactions will increase, and the valuation of my digital assets would also increase. So here are my closing thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. Somebody needs to tell a story, right? So there are several challenges, and each one of this challenge needs careful consideration before the country launches a CBDC. And of course, citizens could pull too much money out of banks, and before this is done. But I have a couple of more points that I would like to make. That India has now been on the forefront of innovating, adopting innovations, and the launch of Digital India, the campaign of Digital India. For a country that was almost completely cash dependent until a few years back, the introduction of central digital currency is a major leap forward in terms of penetration of the modern banking system. And therefore, my students, ladies and gentlemen, I insist that digital currencies till now have remained an elitist idea. Still, people think that it's the uber rich who are going to use digital payments, or it's some fancy financial tools which people are aware of. No, it's people like you and me who are going to use digital transfers in the time to come. While a central bank digital currency is, of course, going to give a boost to the strong, already existing digital infrastructure of the country, it will be exciting to witness what exact system that the government follows while introducing or adoption of a central bank digital currency. And of course, we must not forget that in one of his lectures, the CEO of Niti Aayog, Mr. Amitabh Kant, mentioned that in one of the speeches, the late Prime Minister once he mentioned that out of every 1 rupee, only 10 paisa reach to the common man. So if we bring into account the concept of digitalization of currency, we will be able to make it better. Maybe not 10 paisa from 1 rupee will reach, maybe 90 paisa from 1 rupee will reach the common man, the common person who is in need of funds, and for whom we have so many schemes, like for example, Prime Minister Dhan Nyan Yojana, then we have Narega, etc. So if we have digital currencies, if we have digitalization, I'm sure that more than physical infrastructure, digital infrastructure will lead to the success of people in India. That would be all from my side, ladies and gentlemen. I leave you with my closing thoughts. How do you see India in the next 5 years, and where do you see it will lie in terms of payment of digital currency on the global map? Thank you so much. Once again, in case you want to reach out to me, that's my email ID and that's my phone number. And you are most welcome for any thoughts, suggestions, criticisms, dialogue, and I'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Happy digitalization. Thank you. Bye bye.